Okay, as you can see, this is part three, and part three we are going to quickly cover the the GUI and the container class. These two classes should be pretty quick and simple to make. There's just a few changes in each, and as I said many times already in the first two parts, we're just going to go ahead and copy the vanilla code, and that is how we're going to do this because we're making a basic furnace, and there's really no special tricks or anything to it. It's just changing out the references and deleting some imports and making sure you're directing each class to the appropriate class for the block that you're creating. So let's get started. Where we left off was on the tile entity, and where you're sitting on problems right now with the recipe class, they're not problems. We just haven't created that class yet, but we're going to go ahead and save the file, and we're going to go ahead and close it out since we do not need that class right now. Same deal with the block class. We will get back to this and fix the on block activated method. We will change that to the appropriate method. Um, right now, it's not as important as creating the rest of the class. I know I didn't cover that in the first part of the tutorial when I went over the block, but it's not that big of a deal. We'll come back to that, and I will show you what needs to change, and it's a very simple change. It's no big deal. So just put that out of your mind right now. And we're going to get started with the GUI class for our furnace. We're going to go down to our package. I know you can't see that I'm doing that right now, but we're going to create a new class, and this is our class. And mine is called Container Smoker. You can call yours what you like. And as you can see, I have an empty class, but it won't be empty for very long. We're going to go over to the container furnace, and we're going to copy that whole thing. This is the class in the game, in the vanilla source code. As I've stated many times, I'm just copying it. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that right into my class here. And I'm going to go ahead and look through my imports, and I'm going to get rid of the tile entity furnace, and I'm going to get rid of the furnace recipes, and we don't need to, but I'm also going to show you making a slot, which we can get rid of that, and that should be about it for the imports that we do not need. And we're going to rename this to our container, which extends container, by the way, and we're going to change this to our tile entity. And we're going to go ahead and fix this one down here and this one here. Okay. And there's nothing to really understand or know since we are making a basic furnace. So at this time, these things right now aren't really that important to know, but just understand that this part right here where you're adding your slots to your containers, this is the slots in your GUI where you put things in, and these are the coordinates. This is where this slot is located. This is where this slot is located. Okay? This is your furnace slot. This is the slot that is going to be your output. Okay? And that's where that one is located. You're going to have all of these up here. These are for your this one your 3x9. This is your inventory when you open up the GUI. That little 3x9 section for where you can store items, kind of like a chest, but not really a chest. It's your inventory. And this is your hotbar inventory, where it's only got one row and 9 slots. That's where that one's located. So these are all the coordinates. So if you want to make a new GUI and move those around, these are the numbers you want to mess with. This is your first slot. This is your second slot. This is the one, I believe, where the fuel is. Yes, as you can see, this is at 53 and this is at 17. So the one that's got the smaller number is going to be on top. This one is where you're putting items in to be smelted. This is your fuel. This is where your output is. Okay? Keep that in mind. So when you want to make a new GUI, that is what you're moving when you create that new GUI. That is what you move to match up and line up with them little boxes in the GUI that you want to create. So, moving right along. This is for all the progress bar. This is the item being cooked. This is your fuel. Okay, all of these little progress bar updates, that's all the information. Think of this like your NBT section, the methods in your tile entity. This is what tells it to update, detect and save changes. This is essentially the same as this, except this is the feature where it's saving it. This is the read, this is the write. Basically the same thing as your read and write in the NBT. This section here takes the final results from that and updates that progress bar. This is can interact with method. Much like the crafting table, this is for allowing the user, because it has a tile entity and the table doesn't, they're going to be different. However, essentially they do the same thing. This is usable by the player. You're going to transfer the items in the slot. This section here is what tells the GUI or the block when it updates to move that output to the output section. Here we have the recipes. We want to go ahead and change that to our recipe, and we want to change this once again to our furnace or our tile. Okay, and you're going to have the error here, and you're going to have the error up here. Now moving on with the GUI, which is really simple. Once again, we're just going to go ahead and copy. And as I said in the crafting table tutorial, GUI is only open client side. This is really not necessary to copy over, but we're going to copy it anyway. Just so that you understand that we are doing this client side for those that may or may not know how some things work. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure that we once again remove those imports that we do not need. The tile and the container. We want to get rid of the things that are not necessary to our furnace. And we want to change all the names to make sure they match so that everything lines up perfectly with our new custom block. Whoops. Okay, so don't follow me along exactly every single time because I make mistakes too. As you can see, much like in the container, you have your texture location. Okay, and we'll get back to textures and things at the end. Right now, I'm keeping these sections as short as I can possibly manage, just so that you understand that this is the code and this is what I'm copying. This is how I'm doing this. This is how I created it. This is your flames in the furnace GUI. This is the burning flame above the fuel showing the smelting. This one here is the progress arrow. So if you want to change things, duplicate things, make two furnaces in one, you need to know that this is the flames, this is the progress arrow, and that's what that does. So that is how we do the GUI class. It is essentially a straight up one-for-one copy, just changing the proper things to being what our class names are and what we're creating here. Okay? So that is part 3. And in the next section we will create the slot and the recipe class. And in the last part we will go ahead and finish up with the textures and making sure everything works along with the GUI handler, which the code for that will be in the thread for you to copy. Thanks for watching.